All right, so you've sent us some really interesting stuff, all focusing on Alex Jones's response back in 2018 to being deplatformed,
Mm-hmm.
and Infowars got kicked off YouTube and Facebook and, pretty much everywhere.
Right.
Looks like we're diving into the world of conspiracy theories, censorship and free speech online. The whole debate.
Yeah, it was a big moment.
Yeah.
And, Jones's response is really a fascinating window into how he constructs his narratives and mobilizes his audience.
Yeah.
We've got his direct response to the bans here.
It's definitely classic Alex Jones.
Yeah,
He always comes out swinging.
he does. He really does. What's striking right away is how he frames this whole thing as like he's a victim of a grand conspiracy.
Right. Yeah.
This lone voice of truth being silenced by these powerful forces.
Yeah.
And you can see that in how he just immediately starts naming names.
Right.
CNN, the New York Times, even the Chinese government.
Yeah. He throws a really wide net.
It's all connected in his view.
On the language, too.
Oh, it's so intense. Absolutely. It's like they can't allow something like Infowars to be ranked higher than them on iTunes or on YouTube.
Right. And that's a great example of how he uses that really emotionally charged language to create this sense of urgency and threat.
Yeah.
He's not just being deplatformed.
Right.
It's like he's being suppressed, actively suppressed, as if
Yeah.
he's some kind of threat to these powerful entities.
Yeah.
And then he even takes it a step further by saying, this is just the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
He says they're setting the precedent to deplatform Infowars and WikiLeaks as like a test case.
Mm.
And once they've done that, they're coming for everybody.
So it's not just about him, then it's about anyone who might share his views.
Exactly.
It's like a slippery slope.
Yes.
Or anyone who, dares to challenge the mainstream narrative could be next.
Yeah. And that's a powerful message.
It is.
Especially for people who feel like they're already marginalized or distrustful of, mainstream institutions.
Mm-hmm. It feeds into this broader narrative of like creeping authoritarianism that's threatening individual liberties.
He's tapping into some pretty deep anxieties there.
Absolutely.
Like the fear of being silenced
Yes.
or losing control.
Yeah.
It's almost primal in a way.
It is, and that's where I think the whole conspiracy theory element really comes in.
Yeah.
He connects these seemingly disparate events and actors,
Right.
CNN, the New York Times, the Chinese government, Democrats, the EU.
He doesn't leave anyone out.
No, he doesn't. And he creates this, larger hidden narrative, this idea that there's this shadowy network that's working behind the scenes to control information and suppress dissent.
Yeah. And he's weaving a pretty intricate web here.
He is.
And he doesn't offer any hard proof.
That's right. It's all vague claims and innuendo.
Yeah.
And that's another hallmark of these types of conspiracy theories.
Right.
The lack of concrete evidence actually becomes part of the narrative.
How so?
Well, it reinforces this idea that there's a cover-up, that the truth is being hidden from the public.
So you can't prove him wrong.
Right. He's basically saying they're so powerful that they've erased all the evidence.
So it becomes a matter of faith almost.
You've hit on a key point there. It's not about logic or evidence.
Right.
It's about belief. He's creating a whole belief system.
A worldview.
A worldview exactly where he's the holder of the truth and everyone else is either part of the conspiracy or a sheep being led astray.
Okay, so then how does the whole free speech argument fit into this?
Right.
Because he seems to be positioning himself as a defender of free speech.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's promoting this very specific, and some might say extreme viewpoint.
Yeah, he's tapping into a very real tension, that exists between platform responsibility and First Amendment rights.
Uh-huh.
And he actually states it pretty directly. He says this is about deplatforming conservatives and libertarians to steal the election.
Right.
So by framing it as a partisan issue, he's really trying to rally support from those who share his political leanings.
So it seems like he's walking a fine line there.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, he's claiming to be a victim of censorship.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, he's actively promoting his own platform.
Right.
And trying to control the narrative.
That's a fascinating contradiction, isn't it?
It is.
He wants the freedom to speak his mind.
Yeah.
But he also wants to control the information that his audience receives.
Right.
It raises some really interesting questions about the limits of free speech.
Yeah.
And the responsibilities that come with having a platform.
So it's not just him ranting about being silenced.
No.
It feels like there's a very specific agenda here.
You're picking up on something really crucial here.
Yeah.
It's not just about expressing his frustration.
Right.
It's about mobilizing his audience.
Yeah, he wants them to take action.
Yeah, exactly.
He's very explicit about that.
Yeah.
He tells them to contact Trump, attend rallies, spread his message.
And he even uses that phrase, You know, if you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
It's like something out of a dystopian novel. You almost expect him to tell people to go underground and start a revolution.
He might not say it directly,
Yeah.
but the sentiment is definitely there. He's creating this sense of urgency of being under siege.
Right.
And that can be a really powerful motivator for his followers.
Yeah, it's incredible how he's able to spin this whole situation to his advantage.
It is.
He's been deplatformed. He's lost access to millions of viewers.
Right.
But he's using this as an opportunity to strengthen his connection with his core audience and maybe even attract new followers.
Right.
Who see him as, some kind of martyr for free speech.
It's a testament to his skills as a communicator.
Yeah.
And a manipulator.
He definitely knows how to play the game.
He does. He understands how to tap into people's fears and anxieties. And he knows how to frame events in a way that reinforces his worldview.
And advances his agenda.
Exactly.
It's pretty disturbing when you think about it.
It is.
He's taking a legitimate concern about censorship.
Right.
And using it to promote his own brand of fear and paranoia.
And that's where the real danger lies. He's not just expressing opinions.
Right.
He's actively shaping people's perceptions of reality and influencing their behavior.
Yeah, it's scary stuff.
It is. And, it's not just about controlling the message, is it? There's a business angle to this as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's not shy about promoting his own products and platforms.
Losing access to those mainstream platforms like YouTube and Facebook was a huge financial hit for him.
Right.
So he's using this moment to try to redirect his followers to his own website, his newsletter, his app, even urging them to stock up on his supplements.
It's like he's saying, if they're trying to silence me, the only way to support the cause is to buy my stuff.
Right. It really kind of blurs the lines between genuine activism and self-serving marketing.
Yeah.
And it definitely raises some ethical questions, about profiting from fear and misinformation.
Especially when you consider the types of products he's pushing.
Exactly. It's not just t-shirts or mugs.
Right.
He's selling survival gear, water filters,
Yeah.
long-term food supplies.
So he's preparing his audience for some kind of apocalyptic event.
Yeah, which knowing Alex Jones isn't that surprising.
Not at all.
He's always thrived on creating this sense of impending doom.
Right.
And now he's offering his followers a way to prepare for it.
By buying his products.
Of course.
It's a pretty cynical business model, but it seems to be working for him.
It does tap into a very basic human instinct, I think. The need to feel safe and secure. And in a world that feels increasingly chaotic and uncertain, he's offering them a sense of control, a way to take action.
You make it sound like buying his fish oil supplements is like an act of defiance against the globalist cabal or something.
Yeah, you're not far off. He actually calls his fish oil solid liquid consciousness and the number one thing anybody can do for themselves.
It's such a bizarre mix of health claims and conspiratorial rhetoric.
Classic Alex Jones.
You almost forget you're listening to an infomercial.
Right. That's his genius, I guess.
Right.
He creates this immersive world where everything is connected, everything is part of the conspiracy. And he's the only one who can guide you through it.
So who are the main villains in this narrative? I mean, we've talked about the media and tech companies, but he seems to have a particular obsession with China.
China is definitely a recurring bogeyman in his worldview.
Okay.
He claims they're the ones pulling the strings behind the scenes, orchestrating everything.
Like what?
From the deplatforming of conservatives to the erosion of American sovereignty. He even accuses Google of building a censorship search engine for China.
Wow.
And Apple of letting the Chinese government basically run Apple.
It's a pretty dark picture he paints.
He does. And it's important to remember that while China's economic and political influence has grown significantly in recent years,
Right.
Jones's claims often go way beyond what's actually supported by evidence.
Okay.
He's not just reporting on China's activities, he's weaving them into this grand narrative of global domination.
So he's playing on existing anxieties about China's rise, but he's also amplifying them and distorting them to fit his own agenda.
Exactly. He takes a kernel of truth and builds this elaborate fear-mongering narrative around it.
And for his audience who are already primed to believe in these kinds of conspiracies, it's a very compelling story.
It is. And it's not just China.
Oh, yeah. He lumps in the European Union too, right?
He does. He sees these international bodies as a threat to national sovereignty.
Okay.
A force working to impose a one-world government and erode traditional values. It's a common theme among nationalist and populist movements.
He talks about global regulations and trying to force their will on us.
Right. It's very much an us versus them mentality.
Yeah.
He's drawing a clear line in the sand.
Okay.
pitting the forces of freedom and patriotism against the forces of globalism and tyranny.
And of course, he positions himself as the leader of the resistance.
Naturally.
So what does he want his followers to do about all of this? Besides buying his fish oil, of course.
Well, he urges them to take political action.
Yeah.
Contact the White House, attend Trump rallies, spread his message.
Right.
He wants them to be vocal, to be active, to resist what he sees as this oppressive system.
He even tells them to download his app and subscribe to his newsletter so they can stay connected and access forbidden information.
He does. It's like he's creating his own parallel media ecosystem.
He is. He's building a world where he controls the narrative, where his followers can get all their news and information from him unfiltered by the mainstream media.
And it's a pretty effective strategy when you think about it.
It is.
He's been deplatformed, but he's using that to his advantage.
Right.
He's turning himself into this martyr, a symbol of resistance against censorship.
And he's capitalizing on the growing distrust of mainstream institutions.
Exactly. For people who already feel alienated and disenfranchised, he offers a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
A community of like-minded individuals who share their beliefs and anxieties.
It's a dangerous game he's playing, though.
It is.
He's feeding people's fears and prejudices and encouraging them to see the world in black and white terms. There's no room for nuance or critical thinking.
That's the real concern. He's creating this closed loop of information where his word is gospel, and any dissenting voices are just dismissed as part of the conspiracy. It's very difficult to break free from that kind of mindset.
So what's the takeaway here? What does all of this mean for our listener who sent in all this material?
I think it's a sobering reminder of the power of persuasive rhetoric
Uh-huh.
and the allure of these simple explanations for complex problems and the dangers of unchecked misinformation.
Right.
Jones's response to being deplatformed is really a masterclass in manipulation.
Okay.
He takes a legitimate concern about censorship and twists it to fit his own narrative, using fear and outrage to mobilize his followers and promote his own brand.
So it's a reminder that we all need to be critical consumers of information.
Yes.
To question what we see and hear.
Absolutely.
And to seek out diverse perspectives.
Yeah.
Especially in the age of social media.
Right.
Where algorithms can trap us in echo chambers and reinforce our existing biases.
Yeah. It's like he's built his own fortress of information where his word is law and anyone who disagrees is instantly labeled an enemy. Right. And that can be incredibly dangerous. It shuts down any possibility of critical thinking or open debate.
Yeah.
When you're constantly being told that everyone else is lying and only one person holds the truth, it becomes almost impossible to break free from that mindset.
It seems like the more he's attacked and censored, the more it just validates his beliefs and reinforces that us versus them mentality that he's so good at cultivating.
It is a self-perpetuating cycle. He thrives on this idea of being a persecuted outsider, a lone voice fighting against the establishment. Every attempt to silence him just strengthens his position and emboldens his followers.
It's interesting that you use the word followers.
Yeah.
He really does have a devoted following, people who hang on his every word and see him as some kind of prophet.
He's incredibly skilled at connecting with his audience on that emotional level,
Yeah.
He speaks their language, he validates their fears, and he offers them a sense of belonging and purpose.
Right.
In a world that can feel increasingly chaotic and uncertain, he provides a simple explanation for complex problems.
He's like a modern-day fire and brimstone preacher.
Yeah.
Warning of impending doom and offering salvation to those who heed his message.
That's a very apt comparison. I think there's a strong element of religious fervor in his rhetoric. He's not just presenting information. He's offering a belief system.
Right.
A worldview that promises clarity and meaning in a world that can often feel confusing and overwhelming.
So we've spent quite a bit of time dissecting Alex Jones's response to being deplatformed. What do you think is the most important takeaway from all of this?
Well, for me, it's a stark reminder of the power and danger of misinformation.
Yeah.
Jones is a master manipulator. He blends truth with distortion, fear with outrage, and personal gain with political ideology. He understands how to exploit people's vulnerabilities and tap into their deepest anxieties.
It's easy to dismiss him as a fringe figure.
Right.
A shock jock who says outlandish things just for attention.
Yeah.
But I think we need to take him seriously, not because his ideas are valid, but because he's incredibly effective at spreading them.
You're absolutely right. He has a significant platform, and his message resonates with a certain segment of the population.
Right.
We need to be aware of his tactics, understand how he manipulates information, and be prepared to challenge his narratives.
So what can we do? How do we combat the spread of misinformation, especially when it's coming from someone as charismatic and persuasive as Alex Jones?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
There's no easy solution, but I think it starts with education.
Okay.
We need to teach people how to think critically, how to evaluate sources, and how to identify bias and manipulation.
Sure.
We need to help them develop the skills to navigate this complex information landscape and make informed decisions.
It's also about promoting media literacy, right?
Absolutely.
Helping people understand how media works,
Right.
how it can be used to influence opinions, and how to be discerning consumers of information.
We're bombarded with information from all sides these days, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to separate fact from fiction. We need to equip people with the tools to critically evaluate the information they're consuming and make judgments about its credibility.
It's a daunting task, especially in the age of social media, where misinformation can spread like wildfire.
It is, but it feels crucial, doesn't it?
It does.
It's more crucial now than ever. We're seeing the real-world consequences of unchecked misinformation.
Right.
It's eroding trust in institutions, fueling political polarization, and even inciting violence.
Yeah.
We need to take this seriously and work together to find solutions.
So, listener name, we've taken you deep into the world of Alex Jones, exploring his response to being deplatformed and the broader implications of his rhetoric. It's been a fascinating and at times unsettling journey.
We've seen how he constructs his narratives, how he manipulates information, and how he mobilizes his audience. We've explored the dangers of misinformation and the importance of critical thinking. Hopefully, this deep dive has given you some valuable insights and a renewed sense of awareness.
As you continue to explore the world of information, remember to question everything. Consider the source and seek out diverse perspectives. Don't let yourself get trapped in echo chambers or fall prey to manipulative tactics.
Stay curious, stay informed, and stay vigilant. The truth is out there, but it takes effort and discernment to find it.